It's supposed to develop. It's supposed to happen. It has to develop. So you're simply trying to make sure that you are reinforcing everything that has to come into play as far as a human being is growing to make sure that development should take place. So optimizing, making the maximum of everything that would help in the development of a person. We also explained that one thoroughly, right? Where is Eric? I thought I saw him at the shelf. So let's look at what is developmental psychology. What is developmental psychology? This one is a scientific study of age-related changes throughout the human life. The study of age-related changes throughout the human lifespan. Meaning that apart from age-related changes, there are other changes that happen in a human body. But this time around, we are going to concentrate on the scientific study of age-related changes throughout human lifespan. Age-related changes, so this is what we are calling developmental psychology. There is another definition which says a discipline of scientific inquiry, a discipline of scientific inquiry which recognizes that humans of all societies recognizes that humans of all societies and cultures which recognizes that humans of all societies and cultures beings. They are beings who are in process thoughts. It recognizes that humans of all societies and cultures are beings who are in process. Or they are constantly growing and changing. They are in process or constantly changing and growing. That is also developmental psychology. So a discipline of scientific inquiry which recognizes that humans are of all societies and cultures are beings who are in the process or they are constantly growing and changing. This discipline also identifies the biological, psychological, as well as social aspects. Biological, psychological, and the sociological aspect of a person that interact to influence human growing. To influence the growing human lifespan process. So you can see these definitions are giving you an idea what developmental psychology is all about. So we are saying age-related one, but at the same time, we are also saying that it is recognizing that all humans from all societies are beings who are in process or who are constantly changing and growing. But at the same time, developmental psychology is also saying that it identifies that there is a biological, psychological, sociological aspect of a human being that interact to make sure that this happens throughout the lifespan of a person. So the growing human lifespan process has got the biological part of it, psychological, as well as the social aspect that are constantly coming against each other or working together, working for as well as working against each other to make sure that growing is taking place. All right, so one of the people that have been looking at human developmental psychology is Sigmund Freud. So there is Sigmund Freud. He's been looking or studying this. We have looked at Sigmund Freud in our last course. But apart from this one, there is also Piaget. Piaget is another psychologist that was also focusing on developmental psychology, especially on childhood development or maturation of children. So these two guys, they have had quite a research on the two, maturation of children or development on as far as children are concerned. So within the last 25 years, these developmentalists, we say the developmentalists are psychologists, are biologists, whosoever is interested in studying the development of man. So when I say developmentalist, I'm talking about all these people. So in the past 25 years, the developmentalists, they have been studying human development, but their focus has been expanded to include the study of the motor, the cognitive, intellectual, emotional, personality, social, as well as the moral changes of a person. So apart from simply concentrating on how we have defined what is developmental psychology, these guys, they have expanded their thought, or they have expanded their research to include all this, the motor part, the cognitive, intellectual, emotional, personality, moral, social, all these changes, they have been incorporated in the developmental psychology. Meaning to say that we are no longer looking at the age-related changes that happen from birth to death. So everything else that comes in between, every other change that comes in between is going to be part of developmental psychology. Okay, so let us look at why is it important that we study developmental psychology. Why is it important to study developmental psychology? I had this favorite question that I asked you during your assignment as well as during your the end of semester exams. How has the study, or how can psychology help you as a social worker or something like that? Yeah. So this one, why study developmental psychology? Right, so social workers normally, all the time, they are going to deal with people. So you need to know the kind of animals that you're working with, so that some of the things are going to be easier in life, or you should be able to understand why things are happening and how they are happening. You should also be able to predict, describe, predict, and explain. Yeah. So here are some of the reasons why we need to study developmental psychology. One, to offer an organized account. To offer an organized account of the overall structure and sequence of development. development across the lifespan. I'm fast? Okay, if I can quickly say it, to offer an organized account of the overall structure and sequence of development across lifespan. What have you understood from that? Okay, can we stop there? To offer an organized account of the overall structure and sequence of development across the lifespan. What have you understood from that? Remember, we have agreed. You are not going to write word for word, but write what you have understood. So from that statement, what did you pick? What's your name again? Aisha. Aisha, yes. What did you understand from that?
Group an organized account of an overall structure. And did you say secret?
Sequence.
And sequence of the lifespan.
Alright. And what do you understand from that? You have just been a fast writer. I think you have almost taken what I have said. But what do you understand from that? William, what did you manage to put down? Can you read from your book? Read from what you have written.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, over an organized account of overall structure over sequence of lifespan.
Okay. Whatever you guys have written, can you read it and try to see if it's making sense? You won't demand it as well. Not this is now what's an application. If you read what you offer an organized account of, oh my goodness. To offer organized account of overall structure and sequence of life. What I'm trying to do here is I want you to hear what I'm saying, understand what I'm trying to say. To offer an account I need to know what I'm doing. Okay, so my question is, whether you have taken what you have taken, there are overlays there. I haven't talked about overlays, but there are overlays on the papers. Overlays, blah, blah, blah. But then, my point is, I want you to tell me, what does that sentence mean? However way you've read it.
Organized account.
Overall organized account, right? An organized account of what? So that's what I want you guys to write down. When I am saying, whether the sentence you haven't read it, but you should be able to understand and put down what you have understood. To offer an organized account of, can you check what you have written? To offer an organized account of the overall structure and sequence of development across the lifespan. To offer, I'm not going to move there until you tell me what this sentence means. To account of the overall structure and sequence of and sequence of development across the lifespan. Boston, what do you understand by that?
Okay, what organize that out? I think it's just to the way maybe which you are when you are dealing with people, the work should be well organized.
The work should be well. Okay, he says because we are dealing with people, the work has to be well organized. That's according to Boston 2023. Who else? Francis? Francis is not here. Stanley? Yes.
It means like since we are out of killing people,
Don't take what Boston is saying.
yeah, and the accounts need to be organized whereby if you have a fixed an overall of the structures there and have a good lifespan on our developmental services.
What he has done is what we used to do in college when you don't understand the question. You simply take all the big words and put them together so that whoever is reading it is going to come to a point where he goes like, maybe I'm the one that doesn't have enough information in my head. But the truth is, there's nothing that has been said. That's what he has done. His account to organize, sequence, lifespan, they have just been mixed together. Yes. Okay, this is English. I just want you to tell me in English what this English sentence is saying. No, I am not, because you are there. Get it from your neighbor. This way I'm going to be sure that when you sit down to study, you are able to understand. Because after I've finished with this, I'm going to send you so you can study it on your own. To offer an organized account of the overall structure and sequence of development across the lifespan. We are talking about why study developmental psychology. So we are saying psychology seeks to explain, describe, and what is the other one? No, now I'm talking about psychology in predict, right? Okay, so explaining, predicting, and describing. That's what psychology wants. But now, when we are talking about offering an organized account, we are talking about we should be able to study development and we should be able to explain what is happening. The account of growing, it's not about the account of work, as Boston put it. It's not about work, we are talking about growing. So, we as people that have gone through this course, we should be able to explain it with knowledge. We should be able to explain it using theories, whereby if we explain how growth takes place, if somebody is going to cross-check with it somewhere else, he's going to find out the same. Why? Because our account, when we're talking about our account, we are talking about the information. Because our account is organized. Apart from organized, we are also talking about sequence, one after another in order. Whether it's ascending, whether it's descending, whether we talk about from old age to birth, whether from birth to old age, but we are talking it in sequence. A child develops from 0 to this, from 1 to 2, this is what happens, from 3 to 4. So it's a sequence of lifespan, from birth to death. So, why we started this? It is because we should be in a position where we will be able to explain what man does from birth, sequence, until the person dies. So this account that we are talking about has to be sequenced. You don't talk about someone having dementia and then you're talking about a child that's about 5 years. If a 5-year-old child forgets a lot, we will know that it's not a character of a 5-year-old child. There is a problem about it. But if you're talking about forgetfulness in someone who is about 60, 70, because we know the sequences of life, we know it's part of their stage of development, right? So if we know the sequences of the growth, we will be in a position to know when does one do what, or at this age, what are the abilities of this person. That is going to be easier for us to work with people wherever we are going to be. So that's the first why. The second why is to identify the interconnections. Identify the interconnections between earlier and later. Please, if you're not sure of the spelling, let me know. To identify the interconnections between earlier and later. To identify interconnections between earlier and later developmental events and processes. Earlier and later developmental events and processes. Sometimes what happens earlier is going to help us understand what happens later in life. Some situations that a person has undergone through in the earlier ages, they are going to help you understand why things are happening in the later ages. So, a person is able to connect the earlier as well as the later developmental events and processes. We have been talking about what happens at childbirth to be important in development. If a baby did not cry in time during childbirth when he was being born, later in life this person is going to be affected in one way or the other. So if you know that during this time around there was this development that did not take place, so you're finding a child that has got difficulties in several areas, you'll be able to connect. This is happening because this did not happen. Or this is happening because this happened. If a child is not by age 7 or by age 12, they're still in standard 3, and then you look at their earlier happenings, you discover that their nutrition or their healthy life was not healthy enough. You are going to connect the two developments.
Madam, I'm just confused. Not like I'm late, but actually what you say. Like the first statement you say overnight account overall structure and the sequence of development across the lifespan. In your explanation, you mentioned that it's being able to explain
As
how
he is explaining, this is the third one, the other pointer.
yes. So you say it's being able to explain how a person should go from birth to death. So now the second point goes with the interconnection between area and later development. Don't you think that they are different? There are two statements which have been used in the same way. Because the meaning still goes from the same.
Okay. No, it's okay to think differently. Eric says the 2 points are one and the same. What do you guys say? across the lifespan, and to identify the interconnections between earlier and later developmental events and processes. You think they are one thing?
Yeah, according to your explanation in the first statement, you say it's being able to explain how a person will go from birth to death. So I think it also goes under interconnection between areas. So if you are talking about areas before birth and you realize the death and the life. So I think in that word event and processes they are also.
Can someone rescue me here? Okay, I am talking about the first point. We are talking about organized account of the process of growing, right? Meaning that you are supposed to be in a position to talk about how a person grows from whether from conception or from day one when they are coming into this world, and then they keep on growing, the sequence from stage to another until they die. So you should be able to explain this at every point. Okay? The next reason is whatever happens if we are going to divide a person's life in A, B, C, whatever happens at point B, you should be able to understand that in relation to the earlier events. That's the second one. Sometimes what happens in future life of an individual, it explains what happened. It is because of something that happened in the early years. So when we are talking about describing the sequence or the developmental or an organized account of a person, we are talking about a general manner, whereby this is how a person must develop, right? Generally, everybody else, they are supposed to develop like this, A, B, C. From here, they're supposed to go here, 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 here. So we've got that general line whereby everybody is expected to grow like that. However, there are other people that may not grow like that, but it's not the majority. So you should be able to explain how a normal, in quotes, human being is supposed to grow. Finish. That's one reason why you study developmental psychology. Does that make sense? Okay. The second one, you should be able to differentiate, or you should be able to connect between earlier and later developmental events. Now, this time around, we're talking about events and processes. So here is now one individual. Here is a process that you and I know that a person is supposed to develop like this. So here is Boston, who at 17 years, we look at him and we're like, Boston, you're not behaving like a 17-year-old. Then what happens? Let's look at the developmental process that everybody else is supposed to go through. But then, Boston as an individual is not going through this reborn. We are going to go back in Boston's years and find out what happened during this stage. So we will discover that Boston at some stage, something happened to him. And therefore this is why Boston is behaving like this. So it's a connection between processes in life. Can I go on? The other one is this one. To delineate the biological, psychological, social, and environmental factors and mechanisms which are the foundation of lifespan development. Does anyone have the C-type charges that I can borrow? Okay, so the psychological, biological, as well as social and environmental factors and mechanisms, which are the foundations of lifespan development. So we need to study developmental psychology so that this is supposed to be achieved. Another reason, this can make a very good question. Briefly discuss how the study of developmental psychology, briefly discuss why a social worker must study developmental psychology. sababu sana. With clear examples. With clear examples. I expect you to write down such kind of things and at some point, sometime, discuss such kind of questions. In whatever, in your groups, if at all you've got them. Because you never know, I have put it down, you never know, it might appear in end of semester, maybe end of mid-semester exam. To specify the biological and environmental opportunities, another function. To specify the biological and environmental opportunities. To specify the biological and environmental opportunities and constraints. Opportunities and constraints. Problems. That shape lifespan development. Developmental psychology helps to specify biological and environmental opportunities and constraints. That shape development, that shape lifespan development. That shape lifespan development of individuals the lifespan of individuals, including their range of plasticity. To specify the biological and environmental opportunities and constraints that shape lifespan development of individuals, including their plasticity.